Welcome to the January 10th, 2025 Pre-Planning Commission meeting. We'll start with the agenda items that we have today. We'll, number one, call to order. Number two, see if there's any announcements from city staff.
Yeah, while we're here, we posted online, and I'll announce it again on Monday. We posted online our agenda for the Citywide Planning Department Community Outreach Meeting, which is the meeting we do to introduce new projects just for the public, and that's streamed online. It's just an informational session. But this month we are doing a special promo on small area planning. So there's a separate PowerPoint that Brandon and Arash in our office are going to be coming and presenting to talk about the small area planning efforts. The goal is really to kind of remind people what it is, why we do it, and how we're going to go about it. The idea was really emphasized in our 2020 comp plan, but it's been a couple years. So our goal is to kind of build some enthusiasm and interest in it, kind of generally like a little primer on what is small area plan, why, before we get into the actual area plans themselves. Before we jump into the next area that we'll be looking at, which is the Golden Mile. So yeah, it's kind of a fresh start for 2025 and a way to get people hopefully interested in what's going to be an ongoing effort across the city.
And when is that, Gabrielle?
That's on the 21st. It's a Tuesday because and good announcement too. Monday the 20th is MLK Day, so we will be closed on Monday. So that slides Planning Commission workshop and the community meeting to Tuesday.
And that's 6 o'clock?
That's at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So please, yeah, share with your friends. We were doing a little press release that's going to go out on Monday, just to hopefully encourage folks. But in the circles you travel, talk it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and on the agenda, you'll notice that we have the election of the officers, and that's scheduled for Monday. So there's probably no discussion on that. I assume we have to wait till Monday. Is that correct, Gabrielle?
If there are any questions about the process or anything, we can answer that now. But
does anyone have any questions about the process at this time?
No, thanks.
Okay. No one. Okay. So then I guess I'll turn it over to Gabrielle for our exciting first agenda, which is rules of procedure.
The rules of procedure, it is riveting. So the impetus for bringing this forward was to reflect some of the changes that we made relative to the Planning Commission, the authority being established for the Planning Commission from the charter to the city code. So it used to be in the charter that said, that shall be a Planning Commission, very much mirrors state law. That was taken out of the charter, put in the city code, a new section, and that in your packet, we included the executive summary from that discussion just as background and the ordinance that adopted that change. So when we did that, we also then wanted to look at our rules to make sure that they were reflective of and consistent with that new section of the charter. We took the opportunity to address some other housekeeping items I referred to it as in the staff report, clarifying some of our processes and how our agendas are set up in what order, addressing the use of Channel 99 and email communication. It was a little archaic, and we're making phone calls to everyone on this big phone tree and things. We're not doing that as much as we used to anymore. So there are those sorts of housekeeping items, as well as some of the substantive changes, which we did pull out individually in the executive summary to make note of. So the process for approving changes to the rules, we'll have this meeting. It's kind of a workshop, but it's a public meeting. And then at the February hearing, we would act on it. So any questions that you have, we can of course, address at the meeting, but then also afterwards, if there are changes we still need to make, you'll have the second opportunity to review it in February.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Commissioner Valencia. Do you have any questions, comments? None. Commissioner Beatty?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask some of the questions regarding the details of this, or should we wait to have it, since it's basically a workshop thing, should we wait until Monday to discuss it, or?
Yeah, I would say, you know, when we have all of our members, it might be helpful to have, you know, to have a substantive discussion. If you have a question that maybe somebody else does, if there are any, you know, if there's anything that would help you in reading the materials and having that discussion that you want to ask, that's of course okay. But in terms of the merits of the changes, I'd wait.
Yeah, we'll do it Monday then. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Lee?
No questions, thank you.
Gabrielle, my only question or comment, and I still have to go through this, is I'm just wondering, is there a section on if you're deciding to abstain from voting, like, is there a section on that in here that speaks to that?
There is, and we actually beefed up the language a little bit more. Something I should have mentioned was that in the draft rules, and it says it on the last page, anything that you're going to see in bold and underlined is stuff we're adding. Anything in bold brackets is coming out, kind of like we do ordinances. So you're familiar with that structure. But we have actually added some language to the section on abstaining. I'm sorry, on recusing, we added the language. I don't think we, oh no, we did update.
Recusing and abstaining is two different things, correct?
Correct. So 4.3 on page 5 and 4.5 are being altered regarding abstaining. So the new language in 4.3 is indicating that if you were going to abstain from voting, which isn't a recusal, you don't have to get up and leave the room, but you're going to abstain. Maybe you hadn't reviewed all of the materials on the case previous months, so you're going to abstain. You're to announce that at the beginning of the member will still count towards the quorum. I'm sorry, that's the next section. We're clarifying that you still count towards the requirement for the quorum. When you're recusing, we've added that you're going to be, to the best of your ability, announcing that you have to recuse at the beginning of the meeting. So you should say, you know, item 4 or item D is this, and I will recuse. And then when we get to that as well, recognizing, Scott Waxter and I went back and forth a little bit on it, that sometimes you don't realize that you should recuse. You know, you sit down, you're going through the meeting, and then you're like, oh, you know, there's that person in the audience, and it just made me realize that, you know, I should not vote on this. So he had shall in there before, and I said, well, people might not know at the beginning. So the intent is that you should do your best to think about if you have any conflicts, recuse yourself at the beginning before the item. But obviously, if you don't recuse yourself at the very beginning, we're not going to tell you can't later.
Okay. And so thank you for that. And I just noticed, so I'm thinking to myself, so recusing and disqualifying is different from abstaining, but there's no instructions on what constitutes like abstaining, like why you would consider abstaining and whether that's appropriate. So I'm just asking as a quick question, just as a question, because I know we're going to talk about it Monday night. So if you're abstaining due to moral issues, like as an example, you know, so I mean, like,
so if you have Sure. If you have like a conflict of interest, you should recuse yourself. Think of it this way. If you have a conflict of interest that you are worried there's some sort of like ethical conflict, when you recuse, you actually get up and, you know, leave the room, because you don't want to be any part of that decision. You don't want to be sitting there. You don't want to be making eyes at the guy in the audience, you know, doing anything that could be construed as being part of that conversation at all. That's when you have a real conflict of interest. Exactly. When you're, you know, nodding and smiling. This is, you know, I watched the Netflix, The Sign Stealing in Minnesota. Was it Minnesota? Yeah. Yeah, none of that. When you want to abstain, for example, if you, we had an item that was at a workshop and a pre-planning commission previous to it, and you did not review those materials. You, for whatever reason, you never got around, you missed the meeting, and you didn't watch the video, or you didn't read the minutes, and so you're not qualified to vote. You would abstain from voting in that case, but you wouldn't have to leave the room. You would just abstain.
Right. And I'm not sure whether I heard an answer to my question. I may have just lost the answer while you were talking. But so if you feel like you have a moral issue on an item that comes up, and you're not going to be voting on it, not because you have an ethical issue, not because there is some financial or whatever implications, you just can't vote on it. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is this covered in here? And I don't know if I'm asking the right questions.
So conflict of interest is a definite grounds for recusal, for stepping away and not being part of it. If you just did not want to vote on something because you just felt like, I don't want to be part of this decision for whatever reason, not a conflict of interest, not it's, my brother-in-law's business, and obviously I own a third of it, that would be a true conflict of interest. I would, and then this is probably a good discussion for Monday night, but I would think that the goal is for everyone to be able to look at all of these decisions objectively. We obviously don't want people going, well, I just don't want to be part of this decision because this project I can't decide on, right? Like the goal of everyone being here is that, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to make decisions that maybe personally we don't like this project, personally we think it could be done better, personally we could do this, but our job is to evaluate the case against the law. And I know that I've seen all of you, and I appreciate how hard it is, have to make some decisions that maybe you go home at night and you're like, in my world, I wouldn't have made that decision, right? Like that wouldn't have been, if I ruled the world, it wouldn't be something. And unfortunately, that is kind of part of the job, applying those rules. So there should be very few instances where people just generally abstain because they don't want to make a decision on it. If you're not qualified to make a decision because I haven't read the report, well then, you don't have the facts to make that decision. I didn't attend the meeting. I watched the minutes. Then you don't have the facts, and that's a case to abstain.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
We would definitely discuss in more detail, and I think Scott Waxter might have some, good feedback to give us too. And of course, working through any sort of conflict of interest or something you worried might be a conflict of interest. I think it's actually specifically said in the rules somewhere, but yeah, that is what Scott Waxter and our legal department is here to help us with. So if you ever have those issues, know that that's something you can just readily reach out to me or him, and we'll handle with you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Commissioner Beatty?
Yeah, the one interesting thing, I think it's important to discuss today before Monday, is the section on reconsideration.
Yes.
Was that in there before, or is that a new thing?
Reconsiderations have always been in there. We always had the process. We are clarifying about reconsiderations. And this was something, as we discussed with the Brickworks project, what is the scope of reconsideration? What does that mean? So we have clarified that a decision to reconsider, so remember that's like a two-part decision. First, you have to decide if you want to reconsider. The commission could say, no, we don't want to reconsider. Okay, it's done, and the initial decision stands. If the commission decides, yes, we want to reconsider, we see grounds under which we should reconsider, that nullifies your previous decision. That's like a big old, we're scratching it out, the whole thing's over, and we're making a new decision. So we've clarified the language. Let me find it real quick. The final action to be reconsidered, this is section 8.4, shall become null and void. As such, a petition to reconsider may not limit the commission's review to a single term or condition of the final action. So if you say we are reconsidering, we are reconsidering the entire merits of the case.
Thank you.
So yeah,
It says may not limit, right? It could
May
it
not limit.
limit, but it may not.
do we use may not?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we go on to new business, which is PC 24-757 FSI, final site plan, Salts Air Systems Industrial Center East, ICE, lots, 108R, 109R. I think that's Kelly.
Yeah. I know, I'm trying to turn my camera on. I don't know if I did it or not. Maybe. So just a couple of updates with this. We did get the APFO approvals and the roads exemption earlier this week, so that's good to go. And the archaeological assessment has also been completed. So I think those were the only outstanding items from the workshop. So if you have any questions.
All right, does anybody have any questions about this item? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
The next item is PC 24-559 FSI, final site plan, Frederick County Prospect Center.
Yes, they are asking for that modification to eliminate the level 2 planting along that property line to the residents on that upper area due to utilities and everything, unable to put those plantings in, but they are mitigating for that.
Ma'am, we can barely hear you.
Okay, I'm not feeling that great. Maybe I
Sorry.
need to- That's all right. I have to speak louder. Can you
That's
hear
it.
me now? Oh, I
Yep.
had it down here. Okay. Yeah, they're just looking for their modification for that screening level there because of the utilities and everything. And then they're putting in some shrubbery and things that would enhance more of that boundary. And then as for the approval of the plan itself, much of all those comments are technical, just cleanup of the plan. The applicant had a question today about their loading spaces, and they have cleared that up and have no questions. So I don't think we have anything else. I mean, we might expect to see some more comments that night due to the tower maybe, or screening, but it has gone through all of the reviews and stuff. So
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Pam? None? Okay, thank you. So we go on to item E, PC 24-560 FSCB, combined for stand delineation and preliminary forest conservation for the Frederick County Prospect Center.
right. They do have the modification in to remove 3 specimen trees. There was not a lot of specimen trees on this site, but they need to remove some of them due to the construction of where they're improving around the building itself. They might have been landscaping trees at one time, of course, and now they're revamping the frontage of the building. The other thing is we do have a couple comments, but we worked very hard with the Frederick County to have them satisfy their forest conservation, and they have included several different sheets in the plan for you to look at, but they found areas of other county properties and they're satisfying all their forest conservation. So that was a win.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Nope. Right. This is a really fast meeting. Okay, PC 24-555 PSU FSI, combined preliminary plat and final site plan, Wren Quarter, Phase 3, Section 2.
Okay. You're familiar with Wren, and this is on the south side of Monroe Avenue. And they have one modification they're asking for the street detail, which is along that property line, that they're going to be increasing the buffer along there and no need to have a sidewalk, as the traffic engineer has agreed with them. to have this connection to their street system and everything. And then they have their approval, and much of their comments also are cleanup of their plan and as technical comments. And really there's nothing, no big issue with the plan itself.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Any questions from any of the commissioners? Oh, we have one. Got a live one, Commissioner Beatty.
So far, and I'll take the pulse. Yes, I am alive. I had a couple of questions on this. One is, did we workshop this? And if we did, can someone send me some information? Because I don't remember this at all. Maybe I missed it.
Sure, I can send the workshop summary to you.
Thank you. Now the question I have is just on the location of it, and maybe it's because I'm trying to do it on my iPad, but when I look at the site plan, I'm having a really hard time figuring out exactly where this is. And the confusion mostly with me on this is in the description of it, it talks about located between East Church Street and Monocacy. And I don't see how Monroe even relates at all to East Church Street. So is it the, is it the south?
That location, I must have put in, well, the property location on the plant staff report says corner of Monocacy and south of Monroe Avenue. Where did I have the location for the Wren property itself along East Street?
In the description in F. And I think what you're saying is the entire Wren quarter is located between East Church Street and Monocacy.
Yes, I mean, that's where it starts. But on the staff report, we do have the property location corner of Monocacy and south of Monroe, because that is the phase 3 section that's south of Monroe.
Got it. So there's nothing else that we're considering other than basically the south. Would that be the southeast corner of Monroe and Monocacy?
Southeast corner of Monroe, yes. And no, southwest corner of Monocacy and Monroe
Is the other section. So we're considering that as well, that section?
No, that is the section where the phase 3 is to the west of Monocacy Boulevard and south of Monroe.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time only because I think of Monroe as more like a north-south street.
Oh.
Now, that's why I'm having a hard time figuring it. Is it if you're facing? Oh, okay. Let me see what we're looking at here.
There we go. Monocacy.
Yeah.
This is that Highland Trail development. We're right up in here, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So that would be then, I would think the southeast corner.
This is Monroe.
Okay. So we're talking about the southeast corner of Monroe and Monocacy.
I might have my directions wrong, but yeah, that's the corner.
It's hard to tell because if you look at this, Monroe is really an east-west street.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of south.
Exactly. If north is up here, which normally it is, that would be the southeast corner, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just as long as I know what we're talking about here.
Sure. Yeah, because they've already done the phase 1 of those units, as you can see on the map.
Oh,
and then
I'm sorry.
that's okay. And then they have a section on the south side is to be commercial. So that is what we've got left of the Wren on that side.
Now you just confused me again. I thought I had.
Don't worry about it. As long as you know where it's at.
Yeah. Again, is it safe if you're facing the airport and you're on Monroe and you're about that terrible intersection that I keep complaining about, that fortunately has been closed off and there's been no accidents in that time. But if you're facing the airport it's the property that's on the right. If you're on Monroe facing the airport, it's the property on the right.
Yes.
Okay. Whether we call it the southeast, southwest, I don't care. Just as long as
Okay.
that's where it is. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Any other questions, comments from the other commissioners? Okay, I think that was our last agenda item. Is there anything that we want to discuss or anything at all? All right, I guess our meeting is adjourned and it's only 3:26.
Happy Friday.
Right.
Thank you.
Great
Happy
weekend,
Friday.
everybody.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.